Okay, great.
Oops.
Oops. Hi, Jose. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I just needed to have at least one person confirm that. How y'all doing this morning?
Doing good. Good morning.
Good
Good.
morning, everybody. Hope everybody's weathering the cold weather. Let me check something here and make sure there's no one sitting out there that's waiting to come on board. We're a little bit early. We got a few minutes. There's some handouts. I think some of you have been here before, so you may already have the handouts. If you don't, you'll see them. You should have gotten a link to it to download them so you can have them. So we'll give everybody a few more minutes. You just never know how many people might show up at one of these trainings. I've done the same thing when I go to them. Sometimes I'll get started and have to get out and get in and get out. It gets kind of frustrating, I'm sure, for the speaker because they don't know who's in and out. So as long as there's one person here, we'll do the open house training. So we'll give everybody a few more minutes. Before I get started, is there anybody that has any specific things that would like me to address in the open house training today? I'm gonna cover a lot of things in a broad way, probably a few details, but also if there's anything specific, just ask me. I may know the answer and I may not know the answer. So at any time we go through this, if I get to a point or a topic that, click some questions more than answers, if you'll just ask, like I said, I'll do my best to give you some answers to those things. So we'll give everybody just a few more minutes. I don't see anybody. Okay, there you go. Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. Some of you guys were waiting. We should have you connected now. I see Amanda and Destin and David and Nicole and Angela. I think I mentioned Brandon. If I didn't, sorry, Brandon. Okay. All right. Well, it's 10 o'clock. So we're going to go ahead and get started. If new people come online, then what we'll do is just go ahead and let everybody just come in where we are, and I'll make sure I don't lose anybody in the process. But welcome. This is Open House Training. My name is Don Stiles. I've been doing this for a few years. I've been doing the open houses ever since I've been a realtor. Open houses can be really fun. They should be fun. Especially with people, if you're new to the business of real estate. Open houses gives you an opportunity to kind of brush up on your skills, especially your people skills, because you'll get a chance to interact with a lot of folks. Some people are just shopping, some people are real serious, but in the market that we're in our area, and with COVID being around, and especially this time of the year, if you do an open house, more than likely, you're gonna have pretty serious folks coming to that open house. You're not going to have people that are just dropping by to get hot cocoa, because you better not be serving hot cocoa, not right now. So most of the time you're going to see people that are very serious, okay? And there's a lot of reasons to do an open house. And one of those reasons for you as a realtor, especially if this is not going to be your home that you've listed, you're doing it for someone else, is that you can pick up leads, okay? The last open house I did was a few weeks ago. I did it for Gina Barlow, and I had a lady come to the open house, and it wasn't a real busy open house, but it was a serious open house. Everybody who had come to that open house was looking for a house. They really were. And this one particular lady, a grandmother type, had her grandson, who let's just say was a very, very active grandson. So she had one hand on him and trying to go through the house. About a week or so later, she contacted me. I signed her on as a client, and a couple of days ago, we put a house under contract. Okay. The last time I had someone that I picked up for an open house that signed a contract, I met him in an open house, and I kept in contact with him for a full year. Just kept in contact, just niceties, Thanksgiving messages, Christmas messages, even into Easter, and that they would respond back. And when they were ready to buy a house, they notified me and said, let's do it. And within 2 weeks, we had a house under contract for them. So open houses are still a very good way to pick up serious leads, especially this time of year. Some of those things will, as far as you following through with leads that come to open houses, that's on you to develop your skills so that you can get those leads. Okay. It's really important for you to develop those lead generating skills and follow-ups with those folks that come to an open house. Okay. So what I'm going to do today, first of all, I'm going to get a few things out of the way. And I'm kind of going to go through the script that you should have. Okay. And there'll be some things that we'll add to it to put some meat on the bone so that it'll be more meaningful for you. Okay, now I'm going to ask a question going forward. How many people, and you just buzz in and out if you want to, how many people here have ever done an open house? How many have done one? Okay, so I'm assuming, I don't see anybody buzzing in to say they did an open house. So I'm assuming that everybody is new to the open house world, okay? And that if you do an open house, that's probably going to be the first one that you would do or perform. So looking at Sonia Jernigan is trying to connect with us. So I'm going to say welcome to her when she gets in here. Looks like she must have the same computer I have or server I have because it's kind of going slow to connect. All right. What I'm going to do is start reading through the handout you have, Open House Best Practices. So I'm going to go read through it a little bit because I don't want to make things complicated. So we're going to go through this one step at a time. The first thing it says, you need to select your open house. Well, that's great. How do you get one? If you don't have an open house, how will you get one? Well, you can, when you come into the office, as you come in through the door, the main entrance on the left side by the mailboxes, there's a big white board, okay? And that big white board is an open house board, okay? And as realtors decide to put homes on the market, hi, Sonia, I see you finally joined us. I'm Don with Keller Williams here in Madison. Just wanted to say welcome to you. You haven't missed much. We're just going through the handouts that you should have, okay?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, there you are over there. Okay. You should have handouts that you can refer to. I'm just going to read through these. And have you ever done an open house, Sonia?
Let's see. No, I have not.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to see that you haven't. And that way, if I make a mistake, you won't know. Okay, so open houses are fun. They really are. Enthusiasm has a lot to do with how well an open house goes. Okay. You don't want to be enthusiastically obnoxious. You just want to be enthusiastic when you do the open house. There is a difference. We all know that if you've been to a store to buy something, you can be met with enthusiastic, obnoxious salesmen, or just people that are really enthusiastic to have you there. Okay. So we're going to read through this. So when you get your open houses, you can come into the office, and that big white sign over there is they're going to put the open houses on there as they come up. Now, they'll have a place there for someone to sign up to that open house, okay? So you can sign your name saying, hey, I want to do that open house, okay? It's also going to have the realtor's name that's listing the house. So if you choose to do one of their open houses, what you want to do is take advantage of technology. You want to pick up your phone and you want to call them and say, hey, I want to do your open house, okay? So that's the one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is sometimes on Facebook, our Keller Williams Facebook page, you'll have a realtor, maybe it comes up at the last minute, okay? They'll pop it up there. Hey, I've got an open house. Can anybody do it on Saturday or Sunday? Maybe they had planned to do it themselves, but something happened. They can't do it. They need some help, okay? And so if they need some help, that's a great time for you to step in. Once you connect with a realtor and they know you and you know them, then what will happen is they may actually pick up the phone when they have an open house planned, okay? They may actually call you and ask you if you're available. So sometimes you can, link with other realtors and feel very, very good about those realtors, and they know you on a friend basis. And so you've got a connection, but you've got to start somewhere. The other place to start before you get to the point where you do your open house is you want to shadow a realtor that's done it a little bit. Okay. So you can always do it through the Keller Williams Facebook page. Say, listen, I'm a new realtor, or you don't have to be a new realtor. Maybe you haven't done open houses, but you can just simply say, I'd like to shadow someone for an open house. And all you have to do is make that known on the Facebook page, and somebody usually will connect with you. Okay. You can even look at the whiteboard when you come in, and if there's names there that are doing the open houses, you could call that particular realtor and say, hey, is it possible for me to shadow you for an open house? Shadowing is a little bit of, it's a way of getting a little on-the-job training and feeling safe at the same time to kind of see how a realtor does it. I will tell you that if you pick 5 open houses and shadowed 5 people, more than likely you would see 5 different styles of doing the open house. They're still going to follow the same guidelines because we all have to follow the same office guidelines in doing open houses, but you'll see different styles. Okay. And as you do open houses, you will develop your own style. You'll develop a way that feels good to you, because as I look at the names on the board, Jose and Amanda and Angela and Brandon and David and Destin, all of these folks here, Nicole, Sonia, you're all different people. You're all different people. Even if you were twins, which would be a very large twin group, I might add, but if you were all twins, you would still have slightly different personalities. Your experiences in life, the things that you bring to real estate will actually have a lot to do with the flavor of your open houses and your personality. This is important.
Question.
Yes, sir.
When you shadow an open house, you just watch. You don't participate on anything. It's a question.
Usually when you do an open house, you might hand out flyers at the door. If it's a big house, like a 2-story house, and someone shadows me, and I've had some big houses that I've been fortunate enough to shadow. I mean, big homes. At 2-story, I may say, would you mind going upstairs and being available up there? Okay. And
those flyers have to be not my flyers, but the flyers of the person holding the open house.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Now you can put your business cards out. When I do an open house, listen, folks, if somebody's shadowing with me, I tell them to put your business card out there. It is okay. I'm not a real, this is my open house. I want you to sit over there in the corner and be quiet kind of guy. But if I'm going to ask you to do anything during the open house, I'm going to take you through the house just like I would do, to look at every room and to look at different aspects of the home. I'll probably give you a flyer in the detail sheet that we print out of MLS. That would be the one that the realtor would get, not the visitor. And that way you can kind of see some information in it. But mainly you would be in there to say, here's a bedroom, here's a bathroom. Don't forget to see that extra storage in that room back there. So it's okay you're going to be in the direction of that particular realtor that's there. You're a realtor, okay? So you're going to be there as a realtor, but you need to kind of get together with the realtor you're shadowing. So if you're just comfortable in just watching, that's fine. If the realtor asks you to hand out handouts, that's fine. It's whatever works in that relationship, but you shouldn't be expected to do anything but observe. There shouldn't
Thank you very much.
Except to be there and to learn, okay? But sometimes you learn by doing some of the simple things, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, all right. So on Tuesday or Wednesday, you want to select your open house. So as early as possible in the process, you need to select the open house, simply because there's a lot of work to do when you do an open house, and the earlier you choose it. Let me silence my phone real quick, folks. Let's see. Let me get out of here real quick. And I apologize. Okay. All right. So you want to select it early because there's some things you need to do. So as you read through the script or the schedule, it says select your open house on Tuesday or Wednesday. That's ideal, okay? On Wednesday, you can begin advertising open house online. So on Wednesday, you can actually start doing Facebook posts. You can do it through your email blitz. You can do it through your network. The other thing that don't forget to do, if you're doing an open house beginning on Wednesday, these are called riders, okay? I made a mistake last time to tell people what riders were, but never showed them because I assumed that people knew what riders are, okay? But these little signs here are called riders. If you see one of them says Saturday, one says Sunday, you can get signs that say open house today. You can do that if you want to. This is very, very generic. This comes in handy if you're asked to do an open house on a spur of the moment, okay? And they want you to go in. You can get them that says open Thursday from 1 to 4. You can make these any way you want to. You're gonna pay to have them made. Most of the time though, open Sunday, open Saturday is what's gonna go on the riders. The nice thing about these riders is that they'll fit on the main sign in the yard, and that's what we're talking about Wednesday now. You wanna put these in and clamp them if it's a big sign. If it's a smaller sign in the yard, what you're gonna do is just run it this way. Just put it over it, because usually it won't fit like this. But so you wanna drop it on there on a Wednesday. If you've got an extra sign, you can put an extra sign in the yard, that's fine. But you can do it in the yard only. You cannot do it outside of the yard until Friday. Friday at noon, you can actually start putting signs out. In the city of Madison, you got to be very careful. The city of Madison does not let you put out signs, directional signs outside of the neighborhood, okay? So you can't put it on the byways. You can't put it out away from that home. It comes with a hefty fine. You don't want to do that, okay? Now, once you're inside the neighborhood, you can put them where you need to put them. Now, some neighborhoods you might find won't even let you do directional signs, okay? There are some neighborhoods that won't let you do it, okay? If you have any questions, ask the listing agent. Most of the time when you go to do an open house and you print out flyers, you go to the MLS and you print out some that give out, and you print out your flyer, it's going to have an O&A contact, okay? So if there is an HOA in the community, they'll have a community contact name. I've called them before. I've just called them and said, hey, listen, we're doing a open house on Sunday. Is there any restriction on us putting out open house directional signs? Sometimes you find that they are, most of them are not. The only thing you got to be careful about is when you're putting directional signs out and it looks like it may be in somebody else's yard. Don't put a sign in someone's yard unless you go to that person and talk to them first. You know, just knock on their door, introduce yourself, hand them your card. Say, we're doing an open house on Sunday from 2 to 4. Would it be open? Your house is just in a perfect place. It's right on the corner. It's an intersection. If it's possible for me to put it here, it'd be great. If they say yes, then that's fine. If there's a stop sign sitting there, and there's a little strip of grass over there, that you can put a sign there because that's easement, okay? But don't stick it in someone's yard without asking them. You will not make friends. I will tell you that if you ask people before you put a sign in the yard, you've just made a friend. Most of the time, they're used to people just doing it and they don't like it. So if you ask them and you do it, you'll find that they will like you, okay? Now, the third thing here says on day 3, but it could be Thursday, it could be Friday, anytime before the open house. It's important to make sure that you're in connection with either the listing agent or the seller. If the house is vacant, it's no problem in scheduling a pre-showing for you. You can go ahead and just go by the house. You know, you can call the agent and say, listen, I want to take a peek at your house. I'd like to come by and take a look at it, okay? That if it's a vacant home, it's a matter of just arranging it like you normally would so you don't step on somebody else's showing, but come by and look at the house. Take your MLS sheet that you would print out that comes out of our MLS, walk through the house, look at the rooms. If it's a smaller home, there's not a problem. Usually, you know, that's a bedroom and that's a bathroom and that's a dining room. But sometimes if you get into bigger houses, they'll have multiple rooms in there and you have to try to figure out which one is the office, which one is the study, which one is the sitting room, because they can be different. And you don't want to be pointing out one room in the house, or someone comes in and they say, what's that room? And you go, well, I don't know. See, it's about 10 feet by 10 feet. I think that's the study, okay? So it's a good idea to do that. Plus the other thing it's a good idea to do and when you come by is to take a look at the backyard. Look at the home like you're going to buy the house. Look at the home like you're going to show the house to one of your clients. So look at the home, get a good feel for it so that you have if there's any questions that you have, call the realtor. If you see something in there that you've got a question about, or something that looks a little different, or maybe it needs tidying up, or some lights are out, or it's a good idea to find those before your open house than to come into the open house and have a whole bunch of lights out, and maybe the bulbs have blown or there's a switch that's not working. So coming in to do a preview on a home is great. Now, if you have people living in the house, sometimes a realtor will already go ahead and tell you, give the family a call, okay? So that gives you a time to connect with Mr. and Mrs. Jones and say, hey, I'm Angela or Destin or Nicole or Sonia or Jose or David, whoever. You call them up and say, I'm going to be doing your open house, and boy, am I excited, okay? I'm really, really excited to be able to be here, okay? I have a flyer about your house. I've talked to your realtor. Is it possible for me to swing by and take a look at your house sometime since I'm going to do it? You can do that if you choose to. Or they may say, no, we're really busy right now, but this is what I want you to be able to share with them, okay? So they may point out different aspects about their house that's really important to them. Maybe they had new granite installed. Maybe their bathroom's been redone. Maybe the shower's been redone. They may have a detached 2-car garage. You may need to know where that key is, okay? Sometimes you can have a detached 2-car garage, but you can't get in it because the house key may not open the key to that 2-car garage, and that may be a great selling point. I did an open house a couple of years ago, had a great 2-car garage. I couldn't find a key, so I called the owner, and it took him about, he had more keys than San Quentin in that house. And we looked everywhere, I mean, everywhere. And finally, I can't even remember where we found the key, but it was in a stack of about 100 other keys, it seemed like. And I was able to unlock the garage, the 2-car garage. And I did that ahead of time because I knew that that was important, and I knew that people would want to look at it. And once you get into it, you could open a garage door, it could go up and down. So those kinds of things are important. So finding out what's important to the client is really a big deal. The other thing that's important about that previewing or pre-discussion is we're in the world of COVID, you know, and COVID may or may not go away anytime soon. I'm leaning and praying for somewhere in the middle, okay? Hopefully it'll go away or at least be under control. But until that point, we're following the COVID restrictions. A lot of homeowners have very specific restrictions, okay? When you print out the MLS sheet, sometimes it will say in there, please take off your shoes before you enter the home. Please wear booties when you're visiting, okay? Obviously, the face masks are mandatory, okay? It's absolutely mandatory. So you're going to be following the COVID guidelines in general, but you're going to have potentially some very specifics that the homeowner may want to do. Sometimes they'll provide booties. But guess what? If you have a very active open house, a box of 10 booties, 10 sets of booties are not going to go very far. So you may have to say, you know, if we go through those, can they just take their shoes off to go in? You know, you just have to be on the same page. A lot of homes have video monitoring. So if there's guidelines they're asking you to follow and you don't follow those guidelines, they're not going to be happy with you, okay? So you definitely need to follow the guidelines that they've set. I did an open house one time where someone had a Ring doorbell, and I was doing my best to do sort of a count, just a general count of people coming in and out. And I miscounted by 3 or 4 people. I just said there were about 10 people that came. Well, there were about 10 people. It was about 7 people who actually came. And some of them there was only about 4 of them that were really buyers. They kind of came with some other people. So I just told her when they came back to the house, there was about 10 people that showed up. I just threw that number out there. Okay, lo and behold, she was counting everybody and watching everybody. And so the realtor came back later and said that, you know, the homeowner said that I was misstating the number of visits. Well, I didn't purposely do it, but I did do it. So getting back to the COVID-19 guidelines, you need to make sure that you're following the guidelines of the homeowner. It's just a great idea to do that because you're a guest. You're a guest in their home. They've got certain things they want you to follow. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but if you haven't done it yet, you can pick up a box of masks fairly inexpensively. I would just go ahead and get one. just in case, because you may have someone come to that house that really loves the house, but you won't let them in the house because they don't have a mask. Okay, and they're not going to come back probably. So if you turn them around at the door, they will probably just keep going. If they're really interested in the house, they're going to go find another realtor and come to that house. They may not have a realtor when they get there. So you don't want to turn away someone at the house just because of a mask. Provide them. Okay, it's a good idea to have a little box there. On the booty side, that's up to you. You can still buy boxes of booties in different places, but usually if people take off their shoes, that will suffice. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Anyhow, you want to talk to either the realtor, you want to talk to the client. Sometimes there'll be a notation. Sometimes a realtor will tell you, hey, the client really, really wants to know what's going on. They want some feedback at the end of the open house. Don't take that lightly. That's very important. If the owner is told the listing agent that they want to have feedback, guess what? They want to have feedback. Okay, you don't have to go into great detail. It may be more like, hey, we had 10 people come. 2 or 3 of them had children. A couple of them were older. We had a couple of people that had realtors that were represented with realtors. One said they had a realtor. One brought the realtor came with them. Okay, they just want to know who's there. Then they're all going to ask, hey, what did they think about my house? That's the next question. What did they think about my house? And that's important to give them that feedback. You don't have to be. Some visitors can be outright obnoxious sometimes. You don't have to be obnoxious in the feedback, but you need to tell them kind of, hey, they didn't like that color, or they thought the yard was too small, or they had a question about something. So you want to give them the feedback that you can. Okay, so that's important to do that. I usually always, if the home is occupied, I always talk to the owner. I always either do it before, usually before, and also after. The other time you want to talk to I'm getting a little bit off track here, but as long as we're talking communication, if you set up for the open house, I usually come in about an hour ahead of time. I just do. I hate to feel rushed. In this day and time, I come in, if there's a homeowner there, we talk a few minutes, they'll take me through the house and say, hey, listen, make sure you show them this. Cool. There may be some things that they really want to make sure you understand that they want you to talk about. And guess what? You may be monitored in the house. You just got to assume that you're being monitored all the time, unless the house is totally vacant, little bitty box house. But even then, even those houses could be monitored. So anyhow, you want to try to go about an hour or so early and set up if you can. But I will talk to them about that. But the other thing I'm going to talk to them about is, do you want me to call you when it's over? Usually if they have kids, they're out driving around neighborhoods, just waiting for you to get done. Okay. So some open houses, even though they're set at 2 to 4, you may have that last bus load of people show up at 3:55. And you seriously, when I say this, you may have people that just got off work or just saw the sign, had been looking for a home like that. And they're the most serious people looking for a home. Okay. And sometimes they're there a little bit long. So what I usually do when a home is occupied, I usually tell the owners, I will text you when we are done. Okay. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want them to be aware, hey, come on home. We're done now. And I also don't want them to show up when there's half a dozen people just getting ready to leave. That's kind of uncomfortable for the homeowners and for the people there. So I usually try to keep the twain separated. Okay. So it's best to keep those lines of communication open. Okay. So getting back to what you're going to, does that all make sense? Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, good. All right. So we're talking about Friday now. When you take the sheet, it says you want to put your signs out by noon. Okay, that's when you need to put your directional signs out. Out in the county, you can pretty much put them anywhere along the roadways. When you get to neighborhoods, once again, even if it's in the county, it still may have an HOA or an O&A. So you just need to find out who's in charge. Just ask them, do they mind? A good place to put it, of course, is leading in. They usually have really nice flower beds in there. If they're really, really nice and there's no other place to put it, I'll put them there. A directional sign in the first turn and the next turn and whatever. If there's 2 entrances to the subdivision, put it at both ends. Okay. Because people come in both ways. you know, so you want to try to have enough signs that you can do it at least on the main entrances and enough directionals to get them to the house. Sometimes you run out of signage and that's okay, but you want to try to have enough signs on hand that people don't get lost and frustrated trying to find your open house. In the day and time we're in now, most people come to open houses because they've seen it online. They've seen it on some other web source. They kind of know where they're going, or maybe they've driven past that house before. And if you put out the open house on a Wednesday, the open house rider, you put it there, they're expecting that house to be open on Wednesday, okay? Or on Sunday or Saturday, whenever you're scheduling to do it, okay? Now, Saturday and Sunday, you want to have your open house, of course, and give feedback. 7 and 8. It's on day 7 and 8, which would be listed as Monday and Tuesday. It says follow up with open house attendees. Okay, we're going to go in more depth about some of this stuff, but I'll mention here that your presence is to help the homeowner sell the house. That's why you're there. They're trusting us to do the things professionally to help pull people in to look at their home. And so while you're there, you're actually a guest, but also a realtor for Keller Williams Madison. So you want to think in terms of answering all of their questions, trying to assist them with any questions they may have about buying that home while they're there. If they have any questions that only the homeowner might know, because you've talked to the homeowner, they say, call me anytime. So you pick up the phone and say, hey, they've got a question about the property line back there. And so you can forward that information to them. They may have a question about the security system and how much it costs. They may have a question about anything that, you know, and sometimes a homeowner says, just give me a call if there's any questions, okay? So you're connecting, you're making a rapport. But after the open house, you should be out of that open house by, say, and home by about 4:30 or so. It can drag on a little later, but sometimes 4:30, you should be out of the home and maybe home by 5. And it's okay to take that list and because you're going to collect their names when they come in, and I'll show you that in a minute. And it's okay to use that list and call them, text them. Hey, thank you for coming in. Hi, my name's Amanda Davis. I appreciate it. I just met you. It was great. And I enjoy you being there. And so, you know, I just want to know, do you have any questions? Is there any questions that you have that I can answer you about the house that you were in? If there's anything you have, just ask me. If I don't know, I'll find it. So I usually call people if they leave their phone number, okay? So if they won't pick up the phone, I'll text them also. And then if all you have is an email, then I send the email. So I want to communicate with them as soon as possible after the open house. So if you got time that afternoon, I would encourage you to make that contact immediately. So you want to, I see Ann has joined us. Hi, Ann. I'm Don with Keller Williams in Madison. All I see is Ann's iPhone. So who is Ann's iPhone? You can unmute. Oh, Ann's iPhone's not going to unmute. Okay. Okay, I see you. Who are? Okay, when you get it figured out, let me know, okay? Hi, Ann. All right, I'm going through the handout, the open house best practices right now, and you should have a link to that, and we're just kind of going through it in an orderly progression, one step at a time, okay? And I'm asking folks if they have any questions to jump in there. So thanks for joining us, Ann. Okay. Let's see. So your follow-up's important, okay? Now behind one of these sheets, there's an example of scripts regarding open houses, okay? And there's even one about a thank you note. I send thank you notes too. If somebody comes in and they put their address on, if they take the time to put their address on a card or a sign-in sheet, I will send them a thank you note. There's no reason to not reinforce that, because you're going to call them that day or text them that day that you have an open house. The next morning, you're going to drop a thank you note in the mail. That'll be a Monday or whichever day it is after the open house. So they've had 2 points of contact from you, okay? And then later on, you can always email them too. Say, hey, you know, just following up with you. You can word that any way you want to, but there are some scripts in here on how to do that. So it's a good idea to follow those scripts, because that's what you want to do, okay? Now, there's more in-depth information about each one of these aspects of the open house. And I'm just kind of go through these. It says day of open house requirements. It's another sheet in here. And these are good ideas to follow. First of all, you want to dress professionally, okay? It says you need to be at home 30 to 45 minutes before the open house. I'm going to tell you, you can try doing 30 minutes, but if you have to go in and set up anything, you're going to feel pressed. And if this is going to be a hot listing and you're going to have people wanting to see this house, when you pull up a half an hour before that open house, you may have some people waiting to get in. So I would encourage you to go ahead and plan on getting there a little early. It's okay to come. If the home is not occupied, go early, okay? If the home is occupied, make sure you call the homeowner and say, listen, I normally come at such and such a time. And this is how I usually do it. This is how I set up, okay? So I usually get there about an hour before, okay? Now, when you go to the home, if you have any trouble getting in the home, what you want to do is call the listing agent, okay? You shouldn't have any problems getting into the home. Most of them are on a lockbox, a key, you know, the digital box. So you should be able to get into the home. Sometimes you might have one that's got, occasionally you'll see one that has a code to punch in, you know, it's a little lockbox with a code and the key's in there. So you have to know the code. It may be 2468. So you need to establish that before you get there for the open house. You need to make sure you know how to get into the house, okay? The other thing that could happen, if you get to the open house and something looks funny, if you go up to the front door of the open house and the house is supposed to be vacant, it's wide open, I'd go ahead and call the agent. Don't go in, call the listing agent. It's possible the homeowner could have been there and just left just minutes before you got there. Could be possible that you had a handyman that was working on the premises that was fixing something. Maybe some light bulbs were out, they got there right before you. But if you have any concern whatsoever, when you get to a home, make sure you go ahead and call the listing agent. If you get there and the windows are broken in the house or something that looks really bad, call the listing agent and probably go ahead and call 911 because someone may have broken into that house. So, I mean, I've never heard of that happening since I've been here, but we're living in different times these days. So people can very easily do things that would not be good, okay? So you want to make sure if you have any concerns when you get to a house, any whatsoever, call the listing agent. If you can't get a hold of the listing agent, try to call an ALC member. If you can't get a hold of the ALC member, and I'm just reading it through the list, okay, then you want to call Lisa Gregory, our broker. But you should be able to get answers before you get to Lisa. So call the listing agent if you got any concerns at all, okay? When you go into a house, you want to check the house out when you first walk in. You want to make sure you walk in, check the entrances. Once again, make sure the back door was locked when you got there or any other entrances. You want to open it up, make it bright, turn on all the lights in the home, make it really inviting when you go in. You just want to check. If there's any issues, once again, that look wrong, if the doors are unlocked, if there's any broken windows, it looks like somebody could have gotten into the house, make sure you go back out of the house, go to your car and make a call from your car. Call that listing agent. Once again, I haven't seen that, but there's a lot of Keller Williams agents out there. We're doing a lot of open houses these days, and you know, things can happen. So be aware, okay? So we will brighten up everything when you get there, okay? Now, before COVID, we could go in there and we could set up our sign-in sheets and we could put out some flyers on a table or on a countertop in the kitchen because people would come in, you would meet them at the door, usher them in. What I do these days is I go ahead and set up like a little card table, not right at the door, because if you have people coming in, you're going to block them all the way out the door. But I set it up several feet inside. I'll set up a card table with a nice cover on it, okay? And then what I'll do is go ahead and put out the flyers I want people to pick up. I will put out hand sanitizer and I'll put out the little wipes. I'll have the little wipes available because oftentimes people want to open cabinets, and so the little wipes come in handy. If you're supposed to be providing the booties, they'll be right over there. You want to have them as they come in the door. If someone comes in and doesn't have a face mask, you want to make sure you give them one. Going back to the COVID-19 guidelines, you want to follow the guidelines. Mask, you need to maintain as much distance as they can between one another. Most people are really schooled in it now. We've had a year to deal with this stuff. So people should be aware of those guidelines. Most people will try to honor it. Don't let anybody in that house without a mask, without following the guidelines. If they come in and they're insistent, you just have to insist that that's the way it's going to be. You know, if you want to see the house, these are the guidelines. You just have to honor it. So anyhow, I'll set up a table. I'll put those things on a table, make sure there's plenty of everything, and then give them some very basic directions. You know, down this side, you go to the garage, the master suite. Over here, the guest bedrooms. Don't forget to see this in the backyard. So, you know, I'm sort of a little bit of a cruise director at first when I first meet them, when I first walk in the door. So I want to make sure I give them the basic information. I don't do Vanna White, okay? You'll notice it's got beautiful granite countertops, and it's got kitchen cabinets over there too. It does have a disposal. Don't do that. Most people kind of know what is expected to be in a house, okay? If the homeowners wanted you to point out certain things when they walk in, they'll tell them, hey, it's got new granite, it's been painted, it's got new wood floors. You know, some of those things you can tell them when you first meet them, when you first come in. So when they come in the door, you're going to have that table set up. You're going to give them some basic information, introduce yourself, make sure they grab one of your cards. Now, so when they're going to come in, you're going to do that presentation up front, okay? There's a couple of ways you can do sign-in sheets. You're required to do them. You're required to capture data of everybody coming in there. Some people just simply won't do it. You know, they just don't like to leave any information, but you still got to provide the opportunity for them to leave the information. I've got a card that I use. It's the Keller Williams card. It's Keller Williams up here. I pass this card to different people. It was passed to me. I use it in the open houses. It's got some data collection in there. It says name, the cell phone number, the date that the house was done. How did you find it? How did you know to come here? It says, what did you like best about the home? What did you like least about the home? Don't just take those for granted. If people are going to take the time to write that, that's good feedback for the owner, okay? Then you want to, there's other information here. What are you looking for in a home, okay? When are you looking to move? Your current home status. When you get down to some of these questions, they may choose not to answer that, but you definitely want to capture their name, their email, their cell phone. If you're going to follow up with someone, you've got to capture the data, okay? You also got to make sure it's legible. I've had busy open houses where I had people come through the open houses and I go back to read it and I can't read it. I can't read anything because they just scribbled it in. So if you have enough time to touch bases with them when they leave, you can pick up the guest card and say, oh, Mr. Jones, I see you live in the area. I can't tell you got a cell phone number. Is it 256-724? You know, so and they'll correct you. So it's okay if you've got time to make sure you get the correct data here. Email address is very difficult for some people because they just scratch it. And if you don't collect the data, you can't reach them. Sometimes you might get feedback, and in this day and culture we live in, people don't like to leave their information, okay? So capture as much as you can so you have an opportunity to help that person find a home. Because after all, it's cold, it's January, February, whatever month it is. We're in a COVID season, who knows when it's going to end, but they've taken the time to come to the open house, so that must mean they're interested. So if they're interested, they may not be interested today or tomorrow, but they may be interested 6 months from now. So it's important to capture their information if you can. You can create a sign-up sheet if you want to. You can put name, cell phone, email. If you just want to simply do a simple sign-in sheet, you can do that. That works fine. At the very, very least, what you've got to do is capture how many people came in the house. I started doing something where I called it RAC, R-A-C. You can't see this, but it says R-A-C. Sometimes in a very, very busy open house, it's hard to catch everybody coming to an open house. But if you have this card on the clipboard, you can just simply put down or jot how many came in. I use RAC for me. R is realtor, A is adults, C is children, okay? At the end, it can, you know, going back to that one person I said that was watching everything and I sort of guessed wrong, I learned that it's important for people to know exactly how many people come into an open house. So I will capture that data and say, hey, we had 2 realtors came in. We had about 20 adults and we had about 10 children. Now, those may sound like high numbers to you, but I had an open house last year for Holly McDonald that when I added all those groups together, we had 93 people come to that open house. It was not a big house, but it was a house that was in a great location, had everything people were looking for, and Holly had it priced on the button. And so that house went into contract like either that day or the next day, like most of them are doing now. But anyhow, that's a quick way to at least capture numbers. Numbers are important. That's a good information for your homeowner because, you know, you may have a sheet or you may have the cards out and maybe 60% of the people will actually touch a card and fill it out because you can't be watching everybody at every moment. You may be busy answering questions when people say, hey, thanks for the open house, and they leave without filling out anything. And a homeowner may say, well, how many people came? You can flip the card over and go, okay, this is how many that came to the open house. So that's just sort of a tip for you to do that. It helps, okay? All right, so when you do the open house, I always tell people when you do it, you're a host. You want to have some enthusiasm when you do it. Now, I will tell you that when you wear a mask, you know, you put it on and it goes up over your nose like it's supposed to, it's hard for people to see you smiling. Okay, it really is. It's tough, but they can see your eyes, okay? And they can hear it in your voice when you're enthusiasm about doing the open house. You want them to know, hey, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that you're here too. So if you have a little time to have that conversation with folks, go ahead and have that conversation. It's really important. So sometimes open houses can be slow. They really can be. If they're slow, it may be you and watching the next door neighbors out there, the kids playing a swing set. But in the day and time we're in now, you're going to get some people coming through that open house, okay? But if you're doing an open house as a tip and the house is vacant, usually that means there's no place to sit. If it's a two-story house, you can sit in a staircase if you want to, or you can sit on the floor, or you can sit on a landing. You can sit somewhere. Bring a chair, bring a folding chair, okay? You want to do that. The other thing I would recommend bringing is bringing some water for you to drink. We're not passing out any food or water right now because of COVID restrictions. So bring a chair, bring something for you to drink. If you wanted a snack, that's fine because you're going to be there for at least 2 hours, maybe a little more, 3 hours by the time you do the setup. The other thing you might want to do is that house may or may not have any broom or little dustpan. A lot of people will be coming in and out of that house. Sometimes people track in stuff. I usually go ahead and make sure I have a broom or dustpan available just so I can clean up a little bit. If the home's occupied, you can kind of look into the maybe into the cupboard area, the kitchen area in there. You can look where the washer and dryer are back there, and they may have a broom. I usually try to tidy up a little bit when I get there and also when I leave. So make sure you can throw that in there. I'll tell you a funny story right now. July 4th weekend a couple of years ago, I thought it was a great idea to provide cookies and water like I usually do. And they had these great big sugar cookies on sale. The kind that was soft with it had the white frosting on it, and it had stars on it, and it had all kinds of cool things. Don't get those. Don't do it. I'll tell you why, because you get a bunch of little kids that come in and you hand them a cookie, and when they go through the house, they start eating that cookie, and guess where all the sprinkles go? The sprinkles sprinkle through the house. I know. So, so just remember the dustpan comes in handy sometimes, okay? All right, so that's one thing to do. So you're gonna do the open house, you're gonna have a great time. If they ask you questions during the open house and you don't know the answers, it's okay if they're really serious questions. You can say, would you like to know that answer pretty soon? Would you like it now? And they may be waiting. They may be like, yeah, I really like this house, but I need to know about that. So go ahead and call the realtor if it's vacant. If the homeowner said, call us if there's any question, do that. And they will usually get back to you. It may be a simple question. It may be who the internet provider is in the neighborhood. That may be important to them. They may hate one but love another, and that may be a serious question for them. So it's okay to make that call, give them the information that they have, answer all the questions that you can give them. If during that conversation they say, listen, I've got a question about certain things, you can say simply, flip over the card, fill it out, list all those questions that you have, And I will get back to you or have the listing agent get back to you with the answers to those questions. Okay. So you want to provide information as much as you can, and you want to connect with people that come in there. So it's important to do that. Okay. So, so you've done the open house. It's 4 o'clock. The house is not occupied, so you don't have to call anybody. You can text the listing agent and say, hey, we had a great open house. We had 20 people. Just a quick snapshot. If it's a homeowner, you can say, hey, we had a great open house. We had 20 people. We're finishing up right now. The last visitor has just walked out the door. That may be great information for them. So anyhow, if there was any trash that was collected while you were there, we're not giving out food and stuff now, but when this gets better, if you hand out water bottles and they fill up a trash container, take the trash with you, do a quick cursory walk through the house, make sure it's clean, make sure nothing's been left that would make the homeowner upset. Go ahead and leave the house exactly the way you found it. If that's occupied, the homeowners will generally leave the lights on and all of that. Sometimes a homeowner may be leaving for the weekend, even if you met them and they left the lights on, and they may want the lights off. So you have to kind of figure out what you're supposed to do. If the home is unoccupied and you turned on all the lights and opened the blinds and did all those things for the open house, guess what? Close the blinds, turn off the lights, make sure everything's turned off, even in the garage. Be careful with the garage. This is just a tip. Some homeowners don't want the garage door locked going from the garage into the house, because some people just, that's how they get into the home. They'll go through the garage and they don't want that door locked. So you kind of have to find out what they want done. Make sure if they got a detached garage that you close that thing up, it's buttoned up. Okay, you need to make sure it's closed just like when you got there. You have to be careful with lights. And the reason why you have to be careful with lights, because you're flipping on all these lights, right? So you're flipping them all on. And believe me, when I'm telling you, I've done it a couple of times. When you get to a house, all the lights are off, even the exterior lights. So when you go to leave and you turn off everything and you go out, you picked up all your stuff, you're taking it to the car, you sit in your car, and then you look up and you realize that you've left the outside lights on. Now, sometimes you don't know where that light switch is. If it's a big house, it could be in the garage, it could be right at the entrance, it could be in a lot of places. So you got to go figure out where the light switch is, right? So you have to go back into the house, you got to find that light switch, you got to turn it off, then you got to go back out and you got to put the key back in. They're going to ask you to give feedback, you personally, because you've opened the lockbox usually twice. So now you've been in the house 2 times. So save yourself some trouble, okay? So that's just one thing to be aware of. So when you button it up, close it up, give feedback as necessary. Make sure you call the people that have been there during the open house. One thing I'm going to add about putting out signs, okay? Now, when you put out open house signs, you can put the little sign in, on the corner, directional signs with this on it, and it looks cool. But if you want to get better attention, then it's okay to put a balloon off of this, okay? Keller Williams has specific color balloons you can use. You can't use greens and purples and pinks and all that kind of stuff. You can't use yellows. A lot of other agencies out there have those colors already. More power to them. I like our colors. You know, we do red, I think red, white, gold, and black, I believe, are definitely red and gold. You can go to Dollar General for $1.50. You can get a really nice Mylar balloon, real shiny. And I usually get at least 2. Usually I get 4. But I'll put one at the main entrance coming in. I'll put one at the house. I'll put one at the other entrance coming in. Okay. Those Mylar balloons, if it's a sunny day and the wind is blowing a little bit, will draw your eye to signs very quickly. So those, it's okay to invest in that. Not a problem. The other thing you can do, I mentioned to you earlier about a lot of people don't like to sign these. It's okay to give away stuff. It's okay. If you want to give away a gift card, if you want to give, sometimes gift cards are simple as in the summertime, a $10 card for Dairy Queen. You know, you maybe Subway. If it's a really nice house, you might want to give a nicer gift card. You don't have to spend an arm and a leg. It can be a $25 gift card for eating out at one of the local establishments. Anybody you want, any place you want to go to. So what you do is say, hey, I'd like for you to enter to the drawing. I'm going to give this card away. It could be anything. It could be some flowers. It's easier to do cards because you can drop a card in the mail and mail it off. If you do other things, you're going to have to deliver it to their house. Cards work the best, in my opinion, gift cards. So that way you can direct them, hey, if you fill it out, you get an opportunity. I'm going to draw this. I'll have my wife or spouse or my 2-year-old or somebody reach into the pot and pull a name. So everybody's got an equal chance. So it's okay to give gift cards away. Okay, you don't need to spend a ton of money on open houses, but you can do some things to enhance people's participation so you'll have an opportunity to maybe follow up with people. You can't follow up with people if they simply don't give you their name. There's no way to follow up. It's not going to happen. Okay. All right. Now, let me make sure as I go, while I'm looking at my list to make sure I haven't missed something, does anybody have any questions?
Oh, I was wondering, where would you buy a box of masks?
But good question. I've seen them in places like Office Depot, I believe, sells them. I have seen them in some of the other stores. Check with, I believe that I've even seen them in Walmart. But I know Office Depot and places like that, I've seen those masks there. Okay, they're getting more, we've been under this for so long that they've caught up with supplies. Okay, so check those kinds of places. Okay, my wife actually makes masks. Okay, she does. She does a lot of things. I'm trying to get her to not do so many things, but she does a lot of things, so I'm covered. But it's a good idea when you go do your shopping. Just look when you go in there, you'll see it. Office Depot and some of those places, what Staples might have it, but they're just disposable. You've seen them, one-time mask. I don't know if I would go to the point of buying. You can buy a box of goodies if you want to have them available, but definitely the mask, I think it's a good idea. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Brandon. I have a quick question on social distancing. You may have touched on it earlier. How do you maintain, or how do you recommend to maintain social distancing during the open house?
Well, Brandon, that's a great question. And the best way I can tell you is this. We all are aware of CD guidelines of at least 6 feet or so. Okay, we are aware of that. So when people first walk in the door, I'm going to tell them that I want them to go ahead and follow those guidelines that are CDC guidelines. Okay. And I usually will tell them that especially if it's a busy open house, okay, please do your best to keep that, because they've been to stores. These people have not been in a closet for a year. They haven't been under their house. So they're grown-ups. Now, if they bring kids in the house, I tell them, please, we're gonna provide this open house, but we want you to maintain open house the COVID-19 guidelines. That house that I told you, Brandon, that had 93 people in it, let me just tell you, that was tough. That was May or June. I told everybody, I did everything I could do. I actually, in that house, even though it wasn't a big house, when they went in, they could go through like a dining room area and then go into the kitchen that way. And I told them, listen, when y'all come in, y'all go that way. When you come out, come back out this way. So they would come back through like a dining room, and luckily there was like a little office over here. So it was like a little waiting area. So people would come in and I'd let them through, and they'd say, okay, now you can leave. Okay, you can come. Listen, I almost hired a traffic cop. It was crazy. So most of the time you can do it, but it's just hard to do, but do the best you can is what I can say, as much as possible. And I would stress that to people when they come in the door. Any other questions? Let me mention signage. If you're first starting out as a realtor, usually the listing agent's going to provide some signs for you, because all you have to do is tell them, hey, listen, I'm new to this. But if you're planning on doing open houses, if you're planning on being a realtor, okay, but definitely if you're going to be, when I say obviously you're planning on being a realtor, so that's sort of rhetorical. But if you're planning on doing open houses, make sure you have enough signs. I would say you want to have at least 4 or 5 directional signs, and you need to have at least, if you can, enough of signs that covers things like open house Sunday, open house Saturday. Now, open house Sunday riders are probably what you're going to use the most. Open house Saturday, if you want to get a few to have on hand, you can, because sometimes once it gets down to Thursdays and other time of the week and the agent wants you to do it then, you're just going to have to ask them for those riders. You can go ahead and get them, but you know, you can get some crazy combinations, okay? So I would say just get the ones you definitely need, but you need to have 4 or 5 directional signs. You can get directional signs that actually, you know, it's got your name on it. You want your name on a directional, but you can get them that says open house Sunday 2 to 4. If you want to do that, I've done that. I have a couple, but you can just have your name on it. It says open house, and you can drop this on it. That's better. So you can drop this on it so that you can actually add a little bit more to it. You want a little flexibility with your signs. You don't want to get signs that every sign that you have made says open house Saturday 2 to 4. You can go ahead and get some signs made that has your name on it as a realtor and plan to go ahead and drop these on as you need them. So you can have some additional flexibility. Does that make sense?
Question.
Yes, sir.
I see this is being recorded. It is going to be posted any place?
I'm sorry, Jose. Can you tell me one more time? I didn't quite understand you.
Okay, I see that this is being recorded.
Yes.
Is this going to be posted any place?
I do not know that question. If every time I see this and they do it recording, I think I'm going to wear something nicer. But this is me, guys. And so I would check with Sarah and find out from Sarah how, if it's recorded, you should be able to go back and look at it if you need to. I will also tell you, if you just want to ask me some questions later on, if you guys just want to give me a buzz and ask a question, I will be glad, as every realtor in this office will do this. Everybody I know will definitely share information and knowledge with you. So if I'm available, I'll be more than happy to share information I didn't cover. Every time I do one of these open houses, there's always something I forget to do. Always, always. Last time I talked about riders, I said, okay, you want to put a rider here, a rider there, and I just assumed everybody knew what a rider was. This time I brought it, okay? So if there's something that pops up later on that you have a question about, it's okay to ask me, okay? I'm fine with that. Just give me a call. I'll give you my number if you want to write it down, okay? So everybody grab a pen, okay? Now you can call your favorite realtor anytime, but if you just want to touch bases with me, my number is 256-694-1325, 1325. And my name is Don Styes, S-T-Y-E-S, no L. All my kids have learned that everybody's going to put an L in their name. They just get used to it. But there's no L in my name. But give me a call anytime I can help you, okay? I see it's about 11 o'clock. One last chance. Does anybody have any questions that they would like me to answer? Okay, if not, please feel free to call me anytime. Thanks so much for coming to this open house video training. I look forward to seeing you guys out in the field somewhere. And hey, listen, when you get those listings and you need somebody to help do your open house, give me a call. I might be asked to help you guys out to do an open house on one of your homes. So have a great day. Be safe. Lord bless you all. And thanks for coming to the open house training.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Don.
You're welcome. See you around the block, folks.
You.